we're going to start to see generative AI in the form of deep fakes and disruptions causing turmoil. We're going to see loss of jobs. We will see the first Wall Street servers hacked by AIs or the first power plants, and there will be concern that comes from that. These things are coming. The question is, will that AI be dystopian? Will it be the Terminator? Or will it be a benevolent entity supporting humanity, wanting us to be our best? It's tough to predict where things are going, but the convergence of these exponential technologies are allowing entrepreneurs to reinvent the future every single day.
And anybody listening should be trying to incorporate AI into every aspect of their business at this point.
Listen, if you're not an AI-first company, I understand that. That's okay. But at a minimum, what you need to do as the CEO, as the leader, is identify and bring in a chief AI officer, someone who understands who's out there. What's the topology look like? Who are the major players out there in the world? We humans have been the most extraordinary problem solvers ever. We're still here. We have solved so many problems over the years. We're really good at seeing the problems far away. We accelerate them to today, we freak out, but then we still have time with all the new technologies to solve them, and we do. And I have confidence that we will. And I have confidence that we have the ability to uplift every man, woman, and child on this planet and create this incredible world of abundance. So I really hope people walk away from this conversation, Brian, empowered about the future and knowing that they can make a real dent in the universe.
The world is changing. Inspiration is everywhere. It has never been so easy to connect, share, and bring people together. We're learning from others and finding the best in ourselves. Challenging our beliefs. Sharing our vulnerability. Overcoming our fears. Transforming ourselves so we can transform the world. How far can we go? This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is... This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is Peter Diamandis, the entrepreneur, philanthropist, author, and world-renowned speaker. You are the founder of Singularity University, the X Prize Foundation, and Bold Capital Partners, a $250 million venture fund investing in exponential technologies. You started over 20 companies, written 3 New York Times best-selling books, and were named one of the world's 50 greatest leaders by Fortune magazine. Your latest book, Exponential Organizations 2.0, the new playbook for 10x growth and impact, looks at how businesses can grow exponentially by leveraging technology, innovation, and creativity. You believe there will be 2 kinds of companies at the end of this decade, those that are fully utilizing AI and those that are out of business. Ultimately, you think AI will create an extraordinary future where our greatest dreams can come true. Peter, welcome to London Real.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate the invitation, and this is one of the most incredible times to be alive. Every day I pinch myself at what I'm reading, what I'm seeing. We're living in the midst of a science fiction movie in one sense. Another sense, we're living at called the 99th level of the gameplay, right? The boss level for those who are gamers. And it's tough to predict where things are going. And we can talk about that, but the convergence of these exponential technologies are allowing entrepreneurs to reinvent the future every single day.
Yeah, and we have a lot of entrepreneurs watching. I'm one, you're one. So I really want to get into exactly what you put out in the book. I had my ChatGPT moment like everybody else did. And, we both spent time at MIT, so we were technical, but I had never gone that deep into AI. And of course I did afterwards. So the last 6 months, I've used my platform to educate myself. I've had Mo Gaudet on the show. I know you've spoken to him, former Google.
Yeah.
I actually had Mo 4 years ago when he came, or 5 years ago when he came with his happiness book. So I already knew Mo.
Yes.
And I listened to his book, and then I got him back on. I've had Professor Max Tegmark of MIT, Professor Hugo de Garis, who wrote that book, The Art Elect War, and of course, Dr. Ben Goertzel on the show. We're also investing about $1 million into his new AI company. Peter, you've been talking about singularity for decades. I was just curious, why write your book now, and how did the ChatGPT moment change your view of the future?
So I wrote a book with my writing partner, Stephen Kotler. We'd written Abundance, Bold, and our third book was The Future is Faster Than You Think. That came out in 2019, just before the pandemic hit. And it was a look at how this decade, everything is accelerating, and that the speed at which technology is accelerating is itself accelerating. All these things are coming together, right? Just to take a second to paint that acceleration of the acceleration. First of all, we've got more capital than ever before, right? Deployed more democratically globally. We have the fact that the tech is becoming cheaper, so your ability per dollar to get access to compute or memory, or per dollar to get access to genome sequencing, is skyrocketing. Not just 10x or 100x. We're talking, a million x, a billion x over it was 20 years ago. So for every dollar available, and there's more of that, there's more capability of technology. We then have more individuals, more brilliant minds being connected globally around the world. It used to be the people that were, in our classes at MIT, or were in our city, or we happen to know through our industry. Now you have access to the most brilliant minds around the planet instantly for free, right? So there's more intellectual capability and more money doing more things with it. And then you add this incredible sense of urgency, this what I call a massive transformative purpose. It's throwing fuel on the fire. So all these things are accelerating the rate of the acceleration we're seeing. And one of the things I wrote about in Exponential Organizations 2.0 with Salim Ismail is that we're going to see more progress in the decade ahead than we have the entire past century. And so when you look at this incredible speed, it is blinding. And I mean, I was just, as we were just saying a few minutes before we hopped on this program, I was at MIT this past week visiting some dear friends on a new company, a new venture studio I'm creating there. And I was talking to one friend about how a new generation of technologies are coming out that will displace these generative transformer models, these these GPT models, and will be 100 or 1,000 times better than them. And then, literally not an hour goes by when another person saying, "Oh yeah, I've heard about those approaches, but this is going to blow that one out of the water." So it's this near the curve and agility and the ability to understand the fundamentals, sort of first principle thinking. That's going to be key. But we're going to see disruption after disruption after disruption. And how do you leverage that? The way I describe it, Brian, is how do you surf on top of the tsunami of change instead of getting crushed by it? So, that can either generate a sense of anxiety in people when I speak about this, or like awe and excitement, like amazing. Like I'm going to let go of that and I'm going to start on this next dream. I mean, my GPT moment probably prior to ChatGPT, but then definitely excelled by ChatGPT, was really the recognition that the Turing test had been completed and that we had just moved the goal line. In fact, another conversation I had at MIT this week was in when are we going to see AGI? And one of the guys I was there with, who's extraordinarily brilliant, has multiple PhDs. He says, "Listen, we have AGI. It came in 2020." I say, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, it came with the release of GPT-3. I'm clear about that," is his opinion. And it will become evident by 2025. So what does it mean to the world, everybody listening here, if in fact we have artificial general intelligence, right? We know there's this concept of narrow intelligence, and this is Deep Blue winning chess. This is even, even DeepMind's approaches to protein sequencing or playing Go. These are narrow AIs that are able to solve this particular problem. Artificial general intelligence is an AI that you can ask it to do anything, and it's generalized sufficiently. But the interesting thing is, okay, if in fact we have it by 2025, Ray Kurzweil, who's a dear friend, my mentor, we've started companies together, we started Singularity University together. Ray's prediction is that his prediction has been that by 2029 we'll have human level AI. And everybody used to think he's super, way ahead and optimistic. And no, it's 50 years later, 100 years later. Now people have all honed in on, yes, by 2029, we're likely to have AI. And many individuals, Elon included, are projecting, no, it's likely 2025. So regardless if it's 25 or 29, it's here, it's this decade. So what are you going to do? How are you going to prepare for it? It changes everything.
I've had people on both sides, Peter, some that say, well, the Mark Andreessen viewpoint that, look, people always worry that technology replaces jobs and then it creates the jobs. And then I've had people on the other side that say, look, this is completely different. And, Goldman Sachs came out recently and said 300 million jobs are in jeopardy because of AI. Where do you stand? Because, there's a lot of anxiety in the public. And when I first went down this route, I went to some dark places as well. I have two young boys, they're 6 and 7 years old, and I'm thinking about their teenage years, Peter, and I'm thinking they will have teenage years never experienced in 200,000 years of human history. Theirs will be so different than anything else. And so I obviously am emotionally involved, but what do you say about those two sides, that one say it will help us and one say it will replace us?
So let's drill down. I'm a dad of two 12-year-old boys, fraternal twins. And I think about the same thing. I'm clear that their middle school and high school will not prepare them for the road ahead, and that school needs to be reinvented. So I've been spending a lot of time. I put out 2 blogs a week at Diamandis.com, and I just wrote one on the future of reinventing high school. I'll probably have to do one on the future of reinventing college if college. Sure, we're going to be changing that significantly. There are utopian and dystopian. Both are true. They're not exclusive from each other. And let me break that down. First of all, do I believe we're going to have issues? Yes. Do I believe that the world is going to be extraordinary in the next 20, 30, 40 years? Yes. So how do I hold those two resonant in my mind? I do it by looking back at the last century. I think very few people would argue that between 1900 and 2023 that the world's gotten extraordinarily better, right? From a living standards standpoint. But even if you believe that, during the past 123 years, I actually looked at this for my new book. I'm writing the next iteration of my first book, Abundance. Over the last 123 years, there have been 268 million deaths due to war and pestilence and famine, right? So we've had this incredible period of hardship, but yet still the world has gotten better at an extraordinary rate over the last 123 years. So are we going to have ups and downs? Are we going to have issues? Yes. Will the world get extraordinarily better in the process? Yes. So let's break AI down into 3 categories. So AI today, I would say, is incredible. It's the equivalent to that newborn child that you're cuddling and holding and is all love. And, if it's not screaming in the middle of the night, it's cuddly and fun. And we can use ChatGPT and we can use stability and stable diffusion, all those things, and have fun with them. And they're causing more upside than disruption. So that's phase 1. And I think if we were to stop development of AI today, it would be incredibly useful for the world. Still, one of the most useful tools ever. But then we're going to enter phase 2 and phase 3. Phase 2 is the next 1 to 10 years. And this is the phase during which AI starts to become disruptive. What do I mean by that? Well, we have the US elections coming up, and there's no question that in the US elections, we're going to start to see generative AI in the form of deep fakes and disruptions causing turmoil. We're going to see loss of jobs. I think the loss of jobs issue isn't going to be as big as people think. It's going to be definitely punctuating certain careers and jobs. I think we're going to have AI co-pilots. As a physician, you're not going to be diagnosing on your own. It's going to become malpractice to diagnose without having AI in the loop, and there's definitive good reasons for that. As a CEO, as a politician, as a lawyer, as an artist, as a writer, you're going to have your AI co-pilot supporting you. And we have that already to some degree. And there are going to be those jobs completely replaced by AI, but there will be upskilling opportunities. And so I think the job market will take care of itself. I think we're going to have universal basic income, right? UBI, where we tax robots, we tax the AIs that are displacing jobs, and we distribute that capital to individuals, and we allow those individuals to upskill themselves, educate themselves with that capital. There will be terrorism. We will see the first Wall Street servers hacked by AIs, or the first power plants, and there will be concern that comes from that. And we have to learn how to navigate that. It's going to be like a pandemic. And despite those negative things, the ability for AI to do the utopian things, help us once and for all enable cheap and available and plentiful, safe fusion, to allow us to slay all diseases, to extend a healthy human lifespan, to provide every child on the planet the best teacher possible. This is from the Young Ladies Illustrated's primer from Diamond Age, right? Neil Stephenson's work. But an AI that knows your child's favorite color, sports car, sports team, knows what they do know, what they don't know, and provides them a personalized education like you could not buy, right? And as we enter the virtual world, and AI and VR and the metaverse combine and provide this immersive educational experience that is the best way for a human to learn from an experiential standpoint, not reading words on a page. AI is going to become your diagnostician and your surgeon, and all these things will tend towards a zero cost, right? It's a marginal cost for the best education, best health. These things are coming. Now, the third phase of AI is what we might call the artificial superintelligence, right? This is where AI now has become not 10x smarter than humans, but a billionfold smarter than humans. And what happens when we have that level of AI on the planet, and from billions to trillions, and there's no limitation. Limitation is energy and compute. But let's not go down that rabbit hole. The question is, will that AI be dystopian? Will it be the Terminator, Skynet, or will it be a benevolent entity supporting humanity, wanting us to be our best? And I think that's where the conversation is most important. I personally believe that the more intelligent a entity is, the more pro-life and pro-human life, pro-abundance it will be. I think there's no reason for AI to, crush humans, right? There's an infinite number of resources accessible. If you're a movie fan, on one end of the spectrum, there is Skynet and the Terminator. On the other end is Her, where in this movie, when the AI becomes super intelligent and basically gets bored of humans, it leaves and goes off to some other star system. And I think that's more likely. There's no reason. We are a crumb in a supermarket filled with resources in our universe, right? The Earth is a beautiful gem, but it's by no means unique in its availability of atomic matter and energy. So our job today, and these are conversations, so I do my podcast Moonshots, and I've just been like you, Mo Godat is a friend, and I love his thinking. And we're spending a lot of time together, focused on the alignment problem. And then Imad Mustaq, the CEO of Stability AI, and others, we've been having this conversation. How do you ensure that AI, the super intelligent AI, is aligned with us? Mo's framework, which he writes in his incredible book, Scary Smart, is probably one of the best. He says, we are giving birth to a new species, a new intelligence in AI. And he says, imagine, and I'm sure they had this conversation on London Real, when Superman landed on planet Earth, and he landed in Kansas, and meant that Kent, was brought up by the Kent family, this family of loving individuals with good morals and ethics. He turned into a superhero. If he had landed in the Bronx in a drug lord's den, he would have probably become a supervillain. So it's your early days of learning. So as we are the parents of these generative AI models, what are we teaching these AIs? How do we give them the nutrition, the nutrients to be loving, kind, moral, ethical, super AIs that will be more the positive impact on humanity? So these are the conversations I think about all the time as a dad of 12-year-olds and as someone who's studying and writing and investing heavily in the future.
Peter, I'm just kind of curious, what has surprised you about the conversations you've had in the last 3 months with people about AI, whether it's politicians or fellow MITers or business people? Maybe some things that you thought that you would agree on, and maybe some things you thought you would disagree on that didn't happen.
I think what surprised me is how much ChatGPT and its follow-ons have surprised the creators of ChatGPT. The emergent properties were not intuitively obvious when it was being built, right? That is fascinating. You imagine as a coder, right? And I've been a computer coder all my life, not recently in the last decade, but I was there coding in hexadecimal on 6502 microprocessors in the early days. These computers would do what you told them to do because it was very much hardwired. If A, do this, if B, do this. But that's not how these neural nets are working, and especially not how these large language models are working. They're exhibiting properties that were like, interesting, where did that come from? And that's surprising. What's also surprising me and surprising others is what's coming next, that there's a lot of improvement coming, and it's not linear. It is continuing to be exponential. And so I just met this one company that I'm meeting with the founders tomorrow, because I'm so blown away by their technology that looks to be 100 or 1,000-fold more efficient on many different levels than OpenAI's GPT-4. So, wow, what does that mean? And then being told by another friend, well, actually, there's stuff that's going to be even blow that out of the water. So the speed is incredible. I think what surprised me as well is how this isn't front and center conversation where it needs to be in the boardroom. I'm on stages around the world, and I'm like, wake up, people. You have to understand that this is an extraordinary time, and the tools and how you think about this and how do you prepare for it and how you reinvent your business. So this is what I spend a lot of my time thinking through. So anyway, a lot of that surprising me.
I mean, the White House obviously, summoned the leaders there. I think they just came up with an agreement. The Senate had obviously, Sam there and a few people talking about it. A lot of the corporations are talking about it, but in your mind, they're not really engaging or seeing how fast and how accelerating this and how disruptive this would be?
Yeah, I think this needs to be an ever-present conversation of increasing percentage of one's time because the impact is disproportionate to everything else. Talk about not only the elections, but the global economy, right? Whenever we have a revolution, and this will be a revolution, economic revolution, a societal revolution, a workforce revolution, an intellectual revolution, it generates turbulent flow. And then it settles out into a new capability. We saw this with the Industrial Revolution, and we've seen this with the early computer revolution. We've seen it over and over again. And the challenge is that, or the advantage of previous revolutions are that they took place over centuries or decades or years versus months. And our systems of governance and we humans want stability. Humans like waking up in the morning and knowing that the world was exactly the way it was when they went to sleep last night. No matter how bad the world was, we don't like change because you have no idea whether it's going to be positive or negative for you. And this is going to be an impulse, right? A high force per unit time change that is going to shake people. And we could promise everybody, listen, it's going to be amazing. Let me paint for you where it's going, right? I know that you're not going to be, we're demonetizing everything, but your healthcare is going to be free and your education is going to be free. And the healthcare and education is going to be 1,000 times better than what you had before. And we're going to see, energy is going to be 100 times cheaper. And all of it, you can paint the most glorious picture of the future, but tomorrow, when there's disruption in your job, in your company, in your city, in your country, you can't see that future. And so this is, I am the person where the glass is not half full, the glass is overflowing. But I can understand how this is going to make people feel in the future. For me, a lot of the work that I'm doing right now, I mentor 360 entrepreneurs and CEOs at my Abundance 360 program. And my job every year, we hold it in March in LA, is to say, this is what just happened in the past year. Let me contextualize what just happened. And let me show you where things are going for the next 2 to 3 years. And sort of give you sort of a roadmap ahead. Because if we have a roadmap, if we understand what's coming, we have a chance to get ready for it. And I started running this Abundance 360 program 11 years ago and committed to running it for 25 years because I said, I'm going to mentor and support these CEOs between now and through the singularity, right? And I can tell you that it's becoming harder and harder for me to really keep up. I am by bringing amazing people together, but so much is happening during the course of a year. And the time horizon, the predictable time horizon of what is likely to hit it used to be I had a good view of where things were going to be in 10 years, and definitely 5. And now, 3 to 5 is getting kind of shaky.
Yeah, I think you said you had asked Imad, how far out can you see? And he was just like 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah, exactly.
There's this famous book called Who Moved My Cheese? I don't know if you've ever read it. It's a short book.
I remember the title.
Yeah, and it's, I need to reread it, but the summary is this: I think there's 2 mice and they go to their same place every day and there's their cheese, and then one day the cheese isn't there. And I think one mouse freaks out and spends all his time complaining that his cheese isn't there, and the other one realizes that this is going to happen regularly, and I got to get into the mindset of being able to look for new cheese, or maybe not worry about cheese anymore, or who knows, maybe get the AI to find my cheese. And it's about the mindset. And I think you said this before, Peter, that mindset, maybe that's that growth mindset, is probably the most important asset you can have going into this future. Is how you can condition your mind. Because like you said, we are going to be hit like a boxer hits someone with a 10-punch combo with all of these crazy changes. And it's going to happen probably starting daily soon. So how can people think about changing their mindset? Because that's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah, so I teach that. I mean, that's the core of what I teach at Abundance 360. I've got 3 books in production right now. One is Abundance, Scaling Abundance. It's a follow-on to my original book, Abundance, from 12 years ago, because the story's gotten so much better. And abundance is a mindset. And then there's another one on mindset mastery. And let me give for those who haven't thought about it, let me take a second here. If you ask yourself the question, what made the most extraordinary leaders on the planet successful? Whoever they are, Mahatma Gandhi, Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, name your favorite leader. And you said, okay, was it the money they had that made them successful? Was it the friends they had? Was it the tech they had? Or was it the mindset they had? And I think, on stages where I ask people, or on Twitter where I polled people, it's like 99% say, yeah, it's the mindset, right? And if you took away everything from them, but Martin Luther King maintained his mindset, he would gain back the leading power that he had. And I think that's true. And during all of my life of mentoring under people and learning from extraordinary individuals, it is all about mindset. So if mindset is the key element, my next question to those watching and listening is, well, okay, what mindset do you have? And where did you get it? And what mindset do you need for the decade ahead? And so if you stop and ponder that question, you realize that shaping your mindset is fundamentally critical. All right, next point. What is a mindset? Well, it turns out, we've been talking about AI, and that deep learning is these neural nets in a computer instantiation on NVIDIA's chips. And you train a neural net by showing it data after data after data. If you want to train a neural net to, be able to see a mouse or cheese or a cat, you show it photos of that over and over and over again, and it starts to learn and recognize the ears, the tail, the whiskers, all of those elements, and it says, okay, that's what makes a cat, and it can then identify a cat in all its different variations. Well, we are constantly training our neural nets by the stuff that we watch, we read, who we hang out with, the conversations we have. And so, like I say, if you're watching CNN, which I call the crisis news network, 24 hours a day, you're going to be in a state of fear and scarcity and anxiety, because you're having every murder on the planet delivered to you over and over again. And in that case, you're just in a constant negative assault. And so you couldn't pay me enough money to watch the network news, or to read the newspapers. No, I want my neural net being wired by the news and information that's important to me, which are breakthroughs in science and AI and robotics and longevity and all of these fields, so that I can create within myself a set of mindsets. And the mindsets for me that are important are, first of all, a purpose-driven mindset, waking up every morning with clarity that your massive transformative purpose. And in our book, Exponential Organizations 2.0, we talk about that an MTP, a massive transformative purpose, is fundamental to every company that's really in exponential growth. Because in a world where there's an abundance of opportunities, if you try and go after everything, you're not going to succeed. But if you're clear about your MTP, you're going to focus on those opportunities aligned, and it's going to work much better. And MTP helps you attract the best talent to you. So a purpose-driven mindset with an MTP is one. An abundance mindset. An abundance mindset really is saying, hey, listen, there's nothing truly scarce. You may think it's scarce. Our brains are wired for scarcity. But, actually, technology is a force, a tool that takes whatever was scarce and makes it abundant. So we used to kill whales to get whale oil. Then we ravaged mountainsides to get coal. Now the Earth is bathed in 8,000 times more energy from the sun. And the energy isn't scarce, it's there, just not in usable form. So how do we make it a usable source? And the same is true, example after example after example. And the next book, Abundance, Scaling Abundance, will tell that story. The next mindset is an exponential mindset. And it's really understanding that we're living in a world that's very different than the world our brains evolved for, which were a local and linear world. And, we're great at saying in 10 steps, I'll be there, in 20 steps, I'll be there, in 30 steps, I'm across the street. But in 30 exponential steps, you're not across the street. You've gotten 1 billion meters and you're circumvented the planet 26 times. And that's incredible. I teach a moonshot mindset, how to go 10x. Maybe that's a growth mindset in other parlance, but going 10x bigger, where the rest of the world is going 10%. And then one of my favorites, where I spend a lot of my time, is a longevity mindset, right? Having clarity that it's this decade, secondary to AI and quantum technologies coming, that we're going to learn how to extend the healthy human lifespan by an additional at least 10 years, maybe 20 or 30 years. And during that extended period, we're going to learn how to extend your life even more, right? So it's called longevity escape velocity. So longevity mindset has you really focusing on what you drink, what you eat, getting exercise, sleep, to preserve your physical instantiation to intercept these breakthroughs coming your way.
And that also benefits the mind as well as...
Of course.
Yeah.
Your body, sure.
You think in the next decade we'll get that 20 years?
I do. I fundamentally do. I'm getting ready to launch a major X Prize in extended health span. And I track this, I invest this. I have a $600 million fund, Bold Capital, that's investing 2/3 of it into longevity and health. And I run a longevity platinum trip every year where I go visit the top 50 scientists and researchers. And all of these things, what I'm seeing is stunning across the board. So yes, one of the things, I write about the fundamentals, and the fundamentals are still, Brian, diet. What is it? Simple. Lots of whole plants. Zero sugar, minimize your sugar. Sugar is an inflammatory agent. It's got so much, the body was never designed to get as much sugar as we have. We didn't have sugar evolving in the savannas of Africa. This thing called sugar is a relatively recent part of our diet. Sleep, 8 hours of sleep, 7 minimum, fundamental, no questioned. If evolution could got rid of it, it would have a long time ago. Exercise, number one thing you can do, and it's hard for people to budget in their time, but you got to do it. It's exercise a little bit every day, right? At least 10,000 steps. It's getting some zone 2 exercise. It's getting weight resistive training. I try and get into the gym with weights at least 3 times a week. And then mindset is fundamental. There's some incredible numbers that those individuals who are driven by purpose and who are optimistic have something like a 17% average longer lifespan. Mindset matters. The final thing, well, there's supplements and meds, but there's, those are tuned to your genomics and tuned to your health status and what your desirements are. But the final thing is what I call not dying from something stupid. What do I mean by that? We now have the ability to upload you every year, digitally upload you. And so one of the companies I'd started with Tony Robbins and Mark Benioff and Bill Kapp is a company called Fountain Life. We're in the US, we'll be in London sometime in the next few years, and we'll be around the world. But these are facilities where you go at least once a year and you get uploaded, full body MRI, right? MRI of your brain function, brain flow, blood flow, a coronary CT analyzed using AI, a DEXA scan, 100 biomarkers. It's 150 gigabytes of data about you. And what's your goal? Your goal is twofold. Is there anything going on inside your body right now you need to know about? Most of us are optimists about our health, but we have no idea what's going on inside you. You really don't. You have a better idea of what's going on inside in your car from your gauges, or if you're a pilot, what's going on inside your airplane than you do inside your body. And that's insane because we can know right now. And so out of the first few thousand members who went through Fountain Life, what we found was 2% have a cancer that they don't know about. They think they're healthy. 2.5% have an aneurysm they don't know about. 14.4% have something that is really life-threatening that you take care of. And so this is about giving you the knowledge of what's going on today, but also looking at the combination of your genomics and your physical and all of that, is what are you likely to come down with and how do you prevent it, right? So that's that's fountain life and what I call, don't die from something stupid.
Yeah, that's so powerful. Get to London, please, so I can go. You talk a lot about interfaces, and you've talked about kind of the Mosaic browser and other pieces of technology over the years. Now we have this AI interface, and of course, Elon keeps teasing this Neuralink interface. Just your thoughts about how those could change the future. I mean, obviously the AI and the Neuralink.
Yeah, so I forget if it was in Abundance or Bold. I wrote about something called a user interface moment. So I was interviewing Mark Andreessen on stage at Singularity University years ago, and as he was telling the story of coming up with Mosaic, the first internet browser that became Internet Explorer and so forth, we had ARPANET, which was basically the U.S. defense industry and government connecting all these supercomputer clusters at Stanford, at MIT, at Harvard, and Washington, D.C., and then giving people who were not at that cluster, who were not physically in Cambridge, who were not physically in Palo Alto, access to these over a terminal. And that became ARPANET, the advanced, it was a network of these computers. But they were hard to use. They had arcane keystroke combinations and languages and so forth. And what Mark did was he put a layer on top of ARPANET that with HTML that allowed you to interface with this powerful underlying capability. And it became the browser, and the browser on top of the internet. I said, that's fascinating. And the number of users went from like 10 in the first year to 100,000 next year and 10 million in the next year. It's incredible growth because it was such a powerful underlying capability, and it was intuitively easier to use, not intuitively obvious to use. So that user interface moment got me thinking about other user interface moments. The iPhone became another one with Steve Jobs and the App Store. And ChatGPT is most definitely a user interface moment, making it super simple to use the GPT models that were trained up by OpenAI by just chatting with them. It's like amazing. If you take that a level higher, AI will be the ultimate user interface moment. What do I mean by that? We're all going to have a version of Jarvis. Jarvis from Iron Man. I love that movie. And Jarvis was Tony Stark's AI interface and is like, make me this, do that, make the coffee, build me a new suit, whatever it was he wanted. And it went from his mind, his desires to this physical instantiation. And so we're going to see that with AI. We're beginning to see it now. There are a lot of companies working on creating this human to digital world interface. And everything is about to become smart. Everything is going to have AI embedded in it, from your couch to your refrigerator to, everything. And so you're going to talk to it. It's going to be gathering data constantly. And life's about to fundamentally change. But in the end of the day, if I want to create something, right, we're seeing this now, not just from typing and seeing a paragraph created by ChatGPT or Bard. We're also typing and seeing an image that is in your mind appearing on Stable Diffusion or on any variety of image generative software.
To continue watching the rest of the episode for free, visit our website londonreal.tv or click the link in the description below.
So Jim Rickards has just recorded a video that's not available to anyone in the public, and he's going to be talking about how this upcoming recession is going to be fast, it's going to be bloody, it's going to be nasty. But at the same time, he's going to show you how you can position yourself to profit from all of this chaos. Now, we've made this video only available to our viewers. Go to londonreal.tv/Jim. Watch that immediately. I can't say enough good things about Jim Rickards. He understands the global economic system better than any guest I've ever had on London Real. His predictions are almost uncannily true, and you can learn how to profit from his vision, from his expertise, and his understanding of economics. So go to londonreal.tv/Jim or click the link below. It's an excellent, excellent look on what's going to happen in the future and how you can position yourself to profit from that. Jim is one of the best in the business, one of my favorite guests on London Real, and he's very, very good at predicting the future and showing us all to profit from it. So click the link, and I hope you enjoy.